Welcome. Explore history's captivating killers and thieves. Subscribe, like, and share to join our thrilling journey. How does the son of a Lutheran minister and a wealthy woman from Grimstad become one of the most notorious figures in Norwegian history? This is the story of Vidkun Quisling. Vidkun Quisling was born on a warm day in July 1887, in the quaint town of Fyresdal in southern Norway. His father, John Lauritz Quisling, was a dedicated Lutheran minister and a passionate genealogist. His mother, Anna Caroline Bang, came from a wealthy family in Grimstad, Norway. From these humble beginnings, who could have predicted the path that young Vidkun would tread? In 1905, the eager 18-year-old Vidkun Quisling embarked on a journey that would shape his future. He entered the War College, a prestigious institution that had shaped many a young man's career. Of the 250 cadets, Vidkun stood out, achieving the highest score on the notoriously difficult entrance exams. His academic prowess didn't stop there. From the War College, Quisling moved on to the military academy to pursue a career in the army. Here, he graduated with the best grades in the history of the academy since its founding in 1817. Such was his exceptional performance that the King of Norway himself rewarded the young prodigy by inviting him to an audience. This meeting with the king was a testament to Quisling's intellect and hard work, a promising start to a bright career. Quisling's journey, however, was just beginning. His path would take him from the classrooms of the military academy to the general staff of the Norwegian army. From there, he would witness the horrors of the First World War, the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, and the rise of the Red Army. He would serve as an attaché in Petrograd, become an intelligence officer in Helsinki, and help with the League of Nations humanitarian relief effort in the Ukrainian capital, Kharkiv. With such a promising start, one might wonder how Quisling ended up on the path he did. But as we dive deeper into his life, we will see that the seeds of his future actions were already being sown in these early years. In 1911, Quisling joined the general staff of the Norwegian army, an assignment that would expose him to the brutal realities of war. As the world plunged into the chaos of the First World War in 1914, Norway maintained its neutrality. However, that didn't mean Quisling was untouched by the war's effects. In fact, he found himself at odds with the peace movement of the time, a sentiment perhaps stoked by the high human cost of war he witnessed. Fast forward to March 1918, Quisling was sent to Russia, serving as an attaché at the Norwegian legation in Petrograd. Here he was confronted with the stark living conditions of the Russian populace, which left a deep impression on him. Yet it wasn't the poverty that intrigued Quisling the most, but rather the Bolsheviks' firm grip on Russian society. He marveled at how Leon Trotsky managed to mobilize the Red Army forces so effectively, a stark contrast to the Russian provisional government under Alexander Kerensky, which, in Quisling's view, had led to its own downfall by granting too many rights to the people. When he returned to Norway in December 1918, Quisling's insights and experiences in Russia made him the Norwegian military's go-to expert on Russian affairs. This position allowed him to observe and evaluate the political shifts and societal changes taking place in Russia, further deepening his understanding of the country's political landscape. However, his time in Russia was only one part of Quisling's war years. In September 1919, he left Norway to serve as an intelligence officer with the Norwegian delegation in Helsinki, Finland. This role combined diplomacy and politics, further broadening Quisling's horizons. By 1922, he found himself in Ukraine, aiding the League of Nations humanitarian relief effort. Quisling's experience in Russia would profoundly shape his political views, setting the stage for his future actions. His observations during these war years would not only influence his personal beliefs, but would also play a critical role in shaping the course of his life and, ultimately, his legacy. After the war, Quisling found himself in a variety of roles, from intelligence officer to humanitarian relief worker. He was a man of many hats, but always driven by his unwavering dedication to service. In September 1919, he left the comfort of his homeland, Norway, to serve as an intelligence officer with the Norwegian delegation in Helsinki, Finland. This new role allowed him to blend his military expertise with a more political stance. It was a unique opportunity that combined the rigors of military intelligence with the delicate ballet of diplomacy. A few years later, in January 1922, Quisling was once again on the move. This time he found himself in the Ukrainian capital, Kharkiv, to aid in the League of Nations humanitarian relief effort. It was here that he would meet the woman who would become his wife, Alexandra Andreevna Voronina. This marriage, however, was not one of passion or romance. Instead, it was a gesture of altruism as Quisling sought to lift Alexandra from her impoverished conditions by providing her with a Norwegian passport and financial security. Yet, it was another woman, Maria Vasilyevna Pasechnikova, who would capture Quisling's heart. Despite the age difference, the pair behaved as though they were married, even posing Alexandra as their daughter. These years, filled with a variety of roles and personal relationships, may seem random and disjointed. Quisling, however, was not a man to leave things to chance. Each of these experiences, from his work in Helsinki and Ukraine to his relationships with Alexandra and Maria, provided him with invaluable insights and connections. He was a man who thrived in complexity, always ready to adapt to new situations and make the best of them. In these post-war years, Quisling was shaping himself, gathering experiences and forging relationships that would later play a crucial role in his life. Each of these events, no matter how seemingly unrelated, was a piece of the puzzle that was Quisling's life. Despite the seemingly random nature of these events, they would all play a role in Quisling's transformation. Quisling's actions during World War II would earn him a place in history, but not in the way he might have hoped. As Norway fell under the shadow of Nazi Germany, Quisling found himself in a precarious position. He had been a respected military man and diplomat, renowned for his intellect and ambition. But in the face of occupation, his actions would forever taint his legacy. In the early days of the war, Quisling, driven by a twisted sense of patriotism, declared himself prime minister of a Nazi-backed puppet government. He believed that his cooperation with the invaders would save Norway from the harsh realities of war. However, his actions were seen by many as a betrayal of his country, and his name quickly became a byword for traitor. Despite his attempts to maintain a semblance of normalcy, Quisling's regime was marked by severe repression and the systematic persecution of Norway's Jewish population. His fervent adoption of Nazi ideologies, coupled with his ruthless governance, made him a figure of hate within his own country. As the tide of war turned against the Axis powers, so did Quisling's fortunes. The man who had once stood before the King of Norway as a promising young military officer was now despised and reviled. His dreams of leading Norway into a new era of prosperity under Nazi rule were crumbling around him. In the end, Quisling's downfall was swift and decisive. As World War II drew to a close, he was arrested and put on trial for high treason. His defense, that he had only acted in the best interests of his country, fell on deaf ears. He was found guilty and executed in October of 1945. Quisling's name is now synonymous with treachery, a far cry from the promising young man who once stood before the King of Norway. His story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the devastating consequences of betrayal. Vidkun Quisling remains a controversial figure in history, a symbol of betrayal and a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked ambition. His life journey, from a promising start as a top student and military officer, to his eventual downfall as a reviled figure of treachery, is a narrative that continues to intrigue and baffle historians. Born into a well-to-do family in Norway, Quisling's early years were marked by academic excellence and promising military prospects. His intelligence and ambition were recognized by none other than the King of Norway himself. Yet, this promising young man would eventually become a figure synonymous with treachery and betrayal. The war years saw Quisling's disdain for peace movements, a sentiment that was somewhat tempered by the high human cost of war. His time in Russia, as an attaché at the Norwegian legation in Petrograd, further shaped his political outlook. His observations of the Bolsheviks' strong hold on Russian society, and the downfall of the Russian provisional government due to what he perceived as excessive rights granted to the populace, would play a significant role in his later political beliefs and actions. His post-war years were marked by a shift towards diplomacy and politics, and a move away from his military background. His marriage to Alexandra Andreevna Voronina, believed to be an act of charity rather than romance, and his subsequent relationship with Maria Vasilyevna Pasechnikova further added complex layers to his personal life. As we reflect on Quisling's life, we are left with many questions. What motivated this once promising military officer to become a symbol of treason? How did his beliefs evolve over time, and what role did his experiences in Russia and during the war years play in shaping these beliefs? And most importantly, what impact did Quisling's actions have on Norway and the wider world? As we delve deeper into the life and actions of Vidkun Quisling in our upcoming videos, we encourage you to keep these questions in mind. History is not just about the events that happen, but also about the people who make them happen.